Hi there, Kevin Tharp here. Today we're going to be working on part 4 of the community garden case study. We're going to start working with a little bit of the content and some of the layout. So as we move down in here, one of the first things that we're going to do is we have what's called global content. Global content is information that shows up on all the pages and is the same on all the pages. Normally a lot of your header is going to be there, a lot of your footer is going to be there, maybe your navigation, some branding identities, that kind of thing. And so what we do is we work with the templates to put that global content in, because as you recall, anything that is part of the template is pushed out to the various pages that are created from that template. So we want to put this information into the template. And the other side of that is that if there's sections of the pages that you want to be different on every page, and you have to have that or else it makes no sense at all to have templates, because you'd have a bunch of identical pages. What you need to do then is that you need to have editable regions, and we discussed that in the previous videos. So you need to have editable regions that encircle the areas that are going to be those sections that you can change on different pages. And we're going to be working on both parts of those today, as well as some display information. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get some contact information in here. And when I come to the template, it's the case studies template.dwt that we created earlier. You'll notice that I've gone ahead and entered that information in here down. It's located in the footer, and you'll notice that I've put that in as an unordered list. And that's inside the footer there. And so that's the next step that you need to do, is take that information and put it in there. The other thing that I want to bring your attention to is that it asks you to put the copyright sign in there. That's one of those special characters. You can either do that by choosing to insert a special character by navigating to that location, or by pasting this information or typing this information into your code wherever you want that copyright symbol to show up. And so those are the first things that you need to do in order to get that template squared away. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and save that template. When we do that, it's going to update the files based off of that template, and you'll see that there are the 4. I choose to update, and it goes ahead and it pushes that information out to those various pages, so that if we went and looked on the internet now at any of those 4 pages, it would go ahead and have that footer information, that contact information that we've put in the footer on all the pages. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we're going to change the location of this page name. And as you recall, we have set the page name up in an editable region. So that means that anything that we do on this template is not going to be pushed out to the individual pages. So what we're going to need to do is go to each of the pages and update them like this. One thing that I want to make sure that you're aware of, and this is an error that a number of people had when I was looking at this, and it may be because of the way that I demonstrated the setting this up. A number of people had that H1, those H1 tags outside of the editable region, and that was causing all kinds of weird things to happen within Dreamweaver. That's because you can't, an H1 is a block level element, and so you can't have an editable region inside of a block level element. That block level element has to be inside of there. So if that's the way that you had it, just move this H1 down in front of page name, and that closing H1, make sure that it's there so that they are inside of the tags for this editable region. And that has been causing a number of people problems because they had it outside of there, and it kept telling them that they couldn't have a editable region inside a block level element, and it caused all kinds of other things to happen, and it just wasn't playing well. So make sure you have that fixed first as you're going forward, and that's going to make this a lot easier. So that's the format that editable region should take. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to move this page name up here. Now I'm going to go ahead and work inside my template, but recognize that since I'm working in an editable region, I'm going to have to go and do this same thing on each of the pages. But if I create any more new pages after this, the new pages will have what we're about to do set up. So what we want to do is we want to go in and we want to prepare this H1 to be able to be moved independently of this one. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to give this H1 an ID. So I'm going to go ahead and go inside of that H1, and I'm going to give it an ID, and the ID that I am going to give that is page name. So then I click outside of there. Now you may want to be careful, because if you were going off of the instructions and you had copied that ID of page name from my instructions and pasted it in there, it would have probably in many cases brought what's called smart quotes, and smart quotes are different than the quotation marks that we use in coding. If they're sort of slanted at an angle, then they're smart quotes. So you may want to make sure that you type that in rather than copying and pasting that code, because it is carrying smart quotes over, and it's not going to do what you expect it to do, because a quotation mark and a smart quote are not the same thing. And that's another problem that several people have seen in doing this case study. So what we want to do, we've got the ID of page name, and what that does is that sets this section apart so that it can be manipulated, and that's what we're going to do next. So as we move forward, what you're going to find is that anytime that we're wanting to manipulate the presentation, it's really at least a two-step procedure. Those two steps are, one, that we have to identify or give properties to the element we want to have moved. That's usually done in the HTML. The other thing that we have to do is we have to give properties in the CSS. Now we're going to be working in this base CSS file, not in the reset CSS, but this base CSS as we build this up. And what you'll see is that I've entered some code in here, and I've commented that out to just to expedite this video. But when I take off those comments, you'll see that I have got properties in there for an item called pound page name. And the pound means that it's for an ID, and as you recall, we just gave this the property of page name, an ID of page name. So it's the two parts that are working together. So we've identified, we've given that an ID of page name over in the source code, and then now you just watched it jump up as I came out of the base. That's because we've now applied the second part, which is in the CSS, which is the properties of that. And what we've done is we've used an absolute positioning, and we told it to come 75 pixels down from the top and 400 pixels over from the left. And so that's what that did, is it popped that out. So again, if I put the comment here so that this is not interpreted, then when we refresh that, it's going to go back, because even though it still has the ID, we haven't applied that element to it. And the reason we haven't applied it in this case is because I put a comment there. So I'm going to take that back out. When I take it out and refresh it, it pops back up over there. So that's the two parts that you have to do. You have to give the element the properties that are necessary within the HTML, and then you have to give the you have to create a rule for that particular property over within the CSS. So it takes both parts of that to be in place in order to make this happen. Now, because all of my pages that are using the template are also using this base CSS, that's going to already be in place for any of the other pages when I go to update those. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then what I want to do is go in and look at each of those individual pages. And what we want to do, again, in the source code, you're going to want to make sure that you've got this H1 page name. It's inside the editable region, opens there, and then closes outside. And so we'll go ahead and open up those different elements that we're going to be doing. And so here is the index page, and you'll notice that it says home here. It's already popped up there because I've already gone ahead and given it that H1 ID equals page name around that home. So that's what it should look like on your home page. On your about page, it should look like this. And you'll notice the code is the same on all of these, but the content around those tags is different. And so we've got it on each of the pages, and they've all gone up there. Now if I was to go back and comment out that rule or delete that rule, it would pop that back down on all the pages. So it's often good to work on your presentation as much as possible within your template, knowing that that presentation is going to be pushed out. But you also need to realize that when you're working within that template, the content won't get pushed out. So if I change this to page name 2, or yeah, let's just go with that, and I save this template, so it's page name 2 there, and I save this template. Now it's going to want to push, it's going to want to move information out there, but after it does that, when we go back and look at those pages, they still have their content in there that was already in there, because it doesn't push the content within the editable region out when you make changes within the editable region on the case studies or in the template. And so that's an important thing to do. A lot of people, myself included, will work off of this template when they're doing their designing, colors, placement, that kind of stuff as much as possible. It isn't always possible to do it, but a lot of the work can happen on this template. And what you'll find is that in your projects, you spend more time getting the template right than you do working on the pages, because getting the template right pushes out those properties to all the other pages, and it works better in that way. So now I'm going to synchronize my site, and I'm going to do the entire site because I worked on my template and on my files, so I need to go multiple directories. And I'm going to go ahead and put all those files up into place. Then I'm going to go open my browser and check my work. So I come into my case studies. There's my home page, my about the garden, my projects, my join page. And so we've got all that information in there. Now I notice that on this join page, I get a little bit of extra space here. And so when I'm programming, I want to go in and I want to look and see why that's going on. So I want to open this join page. And what I'm going to find, that's exactly what I was expecting to find. I had an extra H1 with a non-breaking space, or ampersand NBSP semicolon. That means non-breaking space, which is basically put a space in here. But that's the code for it. So if I take that out, refresh it, then all the pages look the same. What I call that is having clean code. So you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of extraneous stuff in there, because it's going to show up in your page and you're going to have those consistencies. So I'm going to go ahead and save that document. I'm going to, in this case, I only changed one document, so I'm going to push that up. I'm going to go back to my join page. I'm going to refresh that content, and you'll notice that it looks the same as the other pages now. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to close out all the pages that I'm not working on, because it's just a good habit to only have the information that you're actually working at in front of you. And I've learned that from having made mistakes before where you've got the same window open a couple times. So it's just a good habit to get into and one that I exercise often. What we're going to do now is we're going to be working on the home page, and I've got the home page listed right here, index.html, from the root of the case studies, and that's the file that I'm going to be working on right there. So that's this file right here that I'm working on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull information off of, or I'm going to use my planning documents to decide what information is going to go in here. Now, in the instructions that I gave for this, there is code written out for you. Now, you're going to have to be careful that you don't just copy in mass and paste. You're going to be able to do some of that, but you're going to have to be careful about how you do it. What I'm going to do is I've put that in with the code already, so that should allow you to go ahead and copy that code. But you have to be careful you don't paste it over here because it's code. What I do want to do is I want it over here where this inside this editable region. I want to get rid of all that code that's currently there. The editable region is still there, but it's empty. When I click refresh, you'll see that it's still there. And now I want to paste that code that I brought in from the instruction manuals. And so it's going to look something like this. So this is what your page should be looking like at this point. And so I've reduced the zoom down to 66% so that you can see the entire page within here. This is my page the way that it should look at this point. This is the code over here, and you'll notice that I've left a place where later on we're going to add a gallery down in this section here, and I've already given it a class, a gallery. So we'll be ready to do that in a later step. So now I'm going to go ahead and save that. We only changed the content, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push that up, and so it's kind of like synchronizing, only more efficient way. It's not checking against it. So I'm clicking on the file that I want to upload. I click on the blue upload file. That's going to move it, just that one file, to the server, and then that will allow me to go back to my server, and that is the index page. And there it is. So that's what it should be looking like at this point. Now when we go back to the directions, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to be adding content to about the garden. So we're going to do the same step. I've put code in there. But when you get down to this red section here, you're not going to be able to just paste the code. I haven't got that in there. So what you want to do is grab this first section first, and you can paste that portion in there. And again, that's the about the garden, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to my about file. I'm going to come into my editable region. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to come over into the code window, and I'm going to do a paste. You'll see that the information goes in there. Now, I haven't written out the code for you in this other window, and so we're going to have to work with this a little bit differently. So when I come over here, what I have done is I've given you the text that you would want to use, and so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select all of that text, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that in there for now. So I'm going to select all of that text, and I did that with a shift click, by the way. And I'm going to copy that, and so now I'm going to come back, and I know where I want that to be. I want that to, what I'm actually copying and pasting is the rules and regulations, and so it's going to come after that H2, and then I'm going to paint that in there. But what this is telling me is I want that as an ordered list. I'm going to show you an easy way to do that. So I'm going to come in here, and again, I am in the design window right now. I am working actively in that design window, and now I'm going to paste that information, And you'll notice that it adds a bunch of line breaks to it. So what we've got to do is we've got to come in here and we need to turn all these rules into an ordered list. Now, there's different ways that I can go about doing this. The first thing, what I would recommend you do is to take advantage of the tools. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. The first thing that you can do is you can turn that BR into a paragraph. And so what you end up with there is a paragraph. The other thing that you can do, and this just comes down to manipulating, and there's different ways of manipulating. I can delete that line break and hit my carriage return. Now it doesn't look like much is going on here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to turn each of these into a paragraph, then I'll be back. Now when I get down here, you'll notice that I have put some H2 tags in there. Go ahead and clean those out because you don't want, that's a code, and the easiest way to turn that back into an H2 is just to come down and turn it into an H2. And you'll notice that the wrong thing has turned to an H2. That's because I did not have I didn't have that in its own paragraph because it was still using line breaks. So I'm going to go ahead and just clean this up. And now you'll see that all of these have become H2s. So this needs to be turned back to a paragraph. That should be an H2. And this should be a paragraph. So it's just cleaning up the mess that I just made. Now you'll notice that it says link this text to the join page. That means this text right here needs to be linked to the join page. So I select that text and I just link to the join page. It adds the link there, and I can get rid of this extra text that's in there. And so we've got that as an H2. All of these right now are paragraphs. I want to convert those into a single list. And that list needs to be an ordered list, which means a numbered list. So I come in here, I select all of that. So I do a shift click on that. That selects the entire thing. I click on this ordered list. And you'll notice that it's changed those paragraphs to list items. That's why I didn't go through and clean up that extra stuff that I was putting in the paragraph. So now we've got an ordered list that contains all of the information with the different rules. Now you'll notice that there are not numbers there. We'll go in a later session and we will add styling to that. The reason it doesn't have the numbered list there, the numbers aren't showing up, is because we used a reset style sheet and that took that numbering away. That's part of what the reset style sheet does. So now that completes the action that I need to do for this one. If I reduce the size of this down so that we can see what the whole page is, the page is going to look like that. You'll notice that the footer still has a different color. We've got all that information that we entered into that editable region. We got the content on the top. So now save, synchronize, upload, check your work, and that takes care of what we need to do for this one. Again, I'm going to push up. I'm going to use the put function on that about.html. I'm going to come back to my browser. I'm going to click on the about, and there is my page. And if I move this up so that you can scroll through and see it, you can see that the entire thing is in there, sitting between the header and the footer, and that's what it should look like for today.